Good morning. Welcome to the Indy Boomer Show. I'm Mary Pat McKee. I publish a magazine called Indy Boomer, and I had the pleasure this morning of sitting here with Mike Dempsey.
Good morning.
And he is with a company called Indy Mature Living, which he's been here before, and we're going to talk a little bit about some changes and things that have been going on with you.
Great.
But before we do, let's look at that beautiful cover of Jim Davis, the creator of Garfield. That is our January issue, and you can pick that up at any Kroger or Marsh store in the Indianapolis and surrounding areas. You can also pick it up at almost any library in Hamilton County, Marion County, if you would like to go that route to pick them up, because they are available. Also, we'd like to thank Jim Wofford with Logan Street Signs and Banners, and also Noblesville Trophies for allowing us to have this show, which we are very appreciative of, so we could sit here and talk about what we want to talk about.
Yes.
Which we think is what boomers want to talk about, too.
We hope so.
Or boomers that are taking care of their parents. It could go either way.
Could go either way.
Yeah.
Right, Pat, you're absolutely right.
Indy Mature Living. I love the name of it, but let's talk in depth. What exactly is that, and what do you do?
Indy Mature Living is my company, and we specialize in assisting older adult homeowners as they transition, typically out of a long-time home into a more manageable residence. That could be anything from getting out of a large two-story home into a small patio home or an age-restricted community.
Ranch, you know.
I have clients that move into senior apartment complexes, and just as many who actually transition into a senior living community, more supportive type housing, like independent living, assisted living, maybe a continuing care retirement community. The key is helping them transition, because that's
your specialty.
That's our specialty. We are at Indy Mature Living. We can project manage the entire process, from move management to estate liquidation to getting their house ready to sell, selling their house. You tell us what you want to accomplish, what your goal is, and we will help you get there with a minimal amount of stress.
Okay.
It
So
can be very stressful.
you're very consultative. So
Absolutely.
people should definitely not be thinking of you as just a real estate agent. You are actually taking on, like you said, liquidation, because that's a huge one.
That's probably the most challenging
It really is.
obstacle that most older adult homeowners face as they consider transitioning. They're not sure what to do with a lifetime full of possessions that they've accumulated over their lifetime, and it's overwhelming to the point of being paralyzing in many cases. So we have a whole process for that. We certainly can help with that. We take great pride in being efficient and helping those older at-risk homeowners who really need us the most, quite honestly.
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting going back to that about giving your things away. We had an article recently on our Facebook page, the Indy Boomer TV Radio Magazine, and it was about boomers who were responsible of downsizing their parents. And again, what's important to you maybe is not important to your child.
Oh, sure.
Maybe not important to your grandchildren as well, and
Right.
and how difficult that's really a tough one.
It is, and it takes a lot of communication typically between family members, oftentimes, and that doesn't necessarily come easy.
Or smoothly.
Sometimes it's adversarial in nature. I mean, there's a lot of emotion
exactly.
that kind of come to the surface that have been below the surface for a long time,
Right.
and it can be rather difficult, and that's why it's nice to have a third party like Indy Mature Living, who try to be as impartial as we can be. Of course, if the older adult homeowners are client, of course, that's who we're representing.
Right.
Of course.
Right.
But I mean, it's nice to have more or less an independent party there that can kind of help you think through that process. And there are other resources, certainly, if it gets too difficult, that we would recommend.
Right.
Families.
Okay.
Take advantage of. But I want to comment on something, Mary Pat. You made a great comment a little bit ago that I am more than a realtor, and actually, you're absolutely right. Being a realtor is way down the list in terms of what I think I do. Right. So at Indy Mature Living, we make a lot of effort in educating and equipping older adult homeowners and actually empowering them to make this difficult transition. And empowering is the key word, where even though it's difficult, we give them the confidence to actually take the initiative and pull the trigger, so to speak. So I like to think of myself as an educator first, an advocate second, and a realtor's kind of way down the line.
Right.
So just
and you are also, aren't you certified senior?
Advisor.
Advisor.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that it? Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
I didn't know
Right.
if there was
Yeah.
another word in there I was missing.
Yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk about that.
I am.
And that's great. So that's a difficult certification to get, and it really gives an individual a very broad foundation in understanding the challenges that most older adult, not just homeowners, but older adults, period, face, from medical issues to financial issues to social issues to housing issues to just a number of issues that older adults are often burdened with and just completely overwhelmed with. So there's so many resources that are available to our older demographic that many aren't even aware of.
Right.
And we help them become aware of those resources and at the end of the day make their lives a little easier and hopefully a whole lot more enjoyable.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and not to dwell on this too much, but a lot of times the seniors do not go on the computer, do not have that instant information that we, are able to find out basically anything we want to know about anything.
Yeah, you're right.
And again, we were just talking a few minutes ago about a lot of them don't know about the VA aid and attendance, which is viable.
It's a huge benefit
It's
for
a huge
veterans.
benefit. And the other thing that we were talking about, which is interesting, because I think back to my folks, they were in the same house for 35 years.
Yep.
A lot of people back in the 60s, and it was 63, I think, when they moved in, but they built the houses.
Sure.
And so, it's not just the stuff, it's the fact that they have such ownership and such roots. Can you speak to that?
Sure. So, there's two elements, really, to transitioning out of a long-time home. One's a physical element.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a lot of work.
Yeah.
But the bigger is the emotional element.
Yeah.
Because many have raised their children in that home. They've raised their family there. That's what contains the container for all the memories that they share if they're a couple.
Right.
And it's a very comfortable, it's a safe environment for them. And as we get older, we don't embrace risk quite as well as we used to. We avoid risk for the most part.
Yeah.
And it's very, the emotional part is the tougher part for an older homeowner to address as they transition out of that older home.
Yeah, and I think it's important for boomers to understand that. And because the boomers are the ones that probably grew up in the home. And they probably have a tie to it as well.
They do, and I see this time and time again. Many times the children have a more difficult
than the folks?
challenge than the older adult has, because they grew up in that home. They have so many memories there that they want to keep the home in the family or whatever. And many times maybe it is practical, but more often than not it's not practical.
It's not.
So I recommend to my clients that you want to engage your children early in the process with full disclosure. What I mean by that is that as a couple begins to consider transitioning, they need to pull their children, if they trust them, and their children are advocates for them, into the conversation, into the plan, so to speak, and do it early so they can kind of begin the digestion process, because it is a process.
And
it's not something you pull, out of your hat, one day and do it the next.
Right.
And full disclosure, meaning, hey, Pat, Mom and I have decided that we're healthy, we're active, assuming that we are, and we've decided to make a move. We're going to sell the house, and we're going to move into Del Webb, Age Restricted Community, or maybe we're going to go to Westminster North CCRC, whatever it might be.
Right.
But you want to give them a level of comfort with where you're at in your life, that you're healthy and you're active, again, assuming that you are, so that they don't feel like they have to come in, swoop in, and take control.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's their first instinct. If they don't know what's going on, oh my gosh, something's wrong with Mom and Dad, I need to go in and take control of things.
Yeah.
As an older adult homeowner, that's not what we want our children to do. These are our plans.
Yeah.
It's
their home and their
It's their home,
plans.
it's their plan,
Right.
and they should pull people into their plan, right? So not the opposite.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Well, and I want to touch on something
Yes.
before our time goes too
Yeah,
quickly.
sure.
I am very excited to hear that you are now associated with a girl by the name of Amy Corey, who I have known for 5 or 6 years, and
I am.
I enjoyed the young woman. She is a young woman.
She is,
And-
from my perspective.
Yeah. I was thinking she's probably
Everything's
she's
relative.
probably younger than me too.
Yeah.
Anyway, but she's a great gal.
She
It's
is
the
a
bottom
great
line.
gal.
That's
She
where
is.
I'm trying to go with this.
She is.
And, but tell us what you're
Sure.
doing.
No,
what's
you know,
going on.
it's a great story, actually. And one of those things that was just kind of meant to be, I guess,
Yeah,
kind of
I
from
like
my
those kind of
perspective. Yeah.
stories.
So Amy and I met at a real estate seminar, I guess, just by chance. And we just began to dialogue about our respective businesses and what we do. And Amy's very tenured in the real estate industry, very, very successful. And the Corey connection, her and her husband are the Corey connection, and they've been
Right.
quite successful. And, you know, as we talked, Amy realized that I worked with the older demographic, and
Right.
that, you know, it's a great service that we provide to the older adult homeowners, and she really wanted to begin to explore the possibility of merging the two companies. So we kind of left that function with the action item to think about it, and we'll follow up and talk more about it down the road a little ways. And we met 4 or 5 or 6 times and kind of laid everything out on paper and talked about the possibilities. And as far as Indy Mature Living is concerned, the real advantage to Amy was just she has a great knowledge of the real estate industry.
I know she does,
great
yeah.
knowledge of the area, and she has been successful, as I mentioned, and she had a lot of administrative resources that Indy Mature Living didn't have.
Right.
Great marketing resources that Indy Mature Living didn't have.
Okay.
And just has a good. She's got a servant's heart, as does Jeff, her husband, and
They're good people.
they are good people. They serve their community and take that job very seriously, which is important to me as well, representing Indy Mature Living. So actually, to make a long story short, Indy Mature Living became a division of the Corey Connection, the first of the year, and
Okay.
you know, it's working out great. I love working with Amy and Jeff, and I think the community will benefit as a whole, and that's what's really important, is that our clients
Right.
benefit from this merger, for lack of a better word, as well.
Okay. Let me ask you this: are you just in Hamilton County, or do you go all over Indianapolis? Tell
All
me about
over
that.
the 9-county
You do the donut
area, yeah,
Okay.
the donut. So,
Okay.
I mean, again, I specialize, as you know, in the older demographic, so that's everywhere. You know, it's not
Yeah.
just more in one county than another. There
No,
are so
not at
many
all.
older adult homeowners who are at risk that really need the opportunity to learn about some of the resources that are available to them as they face this mountainous challenge that's in front of them.
Right. No, I totally agree. I know because Amy is she mostly in Hamilton County? More so,
I would
or
say
she-
most of her business is
Okay.
probably in Hamilton
Okay.
County.
Well,
but-
I do some work with HAND. Are you familiar with the HAND organization?
I've heard of it, yep.
Hamilton County has to do with housing, and one of the issues that they're facing is the fact of housing in Hamilton County, or lack of affordable housing for people in Hamilton County in the senior arena. Does that make sense? What
It
I'm trying to
does,
say?
yes.
Because I think, you know, the fact that you are focused on it, I know you're up on the north side, but like you said, you go anywhere, people need you.
Sure, right.
But there is a real catastrophe, well, I shouldn't say catastrophe, but there's a real problem heading into Hamilton County in the next 5 to 10 years, unless they come up with some other ideas
You're right.
and things.
That's not going to be limited to just Hamilton County. I think
You
it may
think
hit
not?
the-
I guess I
you
only
what?
know
I mean,
Hamilton County.
So baby boomers in particular, I'm a baby boomer.
Yeah.
We don't have as much money as our parents have. We
No.
weren't as good as savers.
I didn't
for the
notice
most part.
that. No.
Because it's a complete surprise to you, doesn't
Yeah, I
it?
know.
Well, you know what? I mean, many older adult homeowners have the resources to move into a senior living community.
They had pensions.
And they had pensions, and they saved. They were. I mean, my parents went through the Depression, right? They saved every penny,
Oh,
you know.
sure,
And unfortunately, I didn't have their philosophy, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just one example when there are many. So, a senior living community, as the baby boomer generation gets older, going to be kind of faced with some challenges
Yes.
in terms of transitioning into a senior living community, just due to the cost if we don't address that now.
Right. And you know,
So-
another thing we don't have, or we may not have as much of. Some of us will because of the Vietnam War, but there's not going to be a lot of us that served in the armed forces. So
That's
that
true.
VA aid and attendance,
Absolutely, yeah.
you can't get it if you're not a veteran.
No, that's right. And the interesting thing about aid and attendance is it's not only a benefit for the veteran, him or herself, but it's also a benefit for their spouse.
Yes,
right?
and that's a very good
Right.
kept
Should
secret,
something
isn't
happen
it?
to the veteran, then their spouse is eligible for that benefit as well. And I run into that a lot because a lot of my older clients are veterans and proud to be veteran, certainly understandable.
Sure.
But many of them aren't aware of the aid and attendance benefits. So
Right.
it's a well-kept secret, I guess. For the lack
It
of
is,
better
and it's so funny because I was just discussing this with another gentleman, Wesley Young, is the fact that the women, the widows of the of the veterans, really don't think that they have any chance of any
right.
help, and they do.
And they do.
It's a nice little.
And it's a
chunk
great
of,
benefit.
Oh,
I mean,
it's a
it's
nice little
substantial.
chunk of money. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
exactly.
So it can make their
Okay.
lives a lot easier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, anything else you want to add today?
I'm good. As always, it's a pleasure to be here. I love talking with you and visiting with you. It's a great opportunity to kind of catch up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it's good to let people know what's going on, and I think it's very important, as we always say, ask an expert. Because you're going to find resources and information that you didn't even know was available, and I think that's very important. As you can see, again, we've got the January issue up on the screen there. That is Jim Davis with the Garfield Creator, and just pick that up at any Kroger or Marsh store in Indianapolis, and also on Sunday, don't forget Boomer TV with Patty Spidler on Channel 8 at 10:30. Thank you so much, and we'll see you all next time.